So you want to know how to pair for Battlefield 2042. Well, the closest game to it would be Battlefield 4. So we loaded that up and got to work on making these tips for you. So we won't waste any more time and jump straight into the first tip, which is Keybinds. This tip will pretty much affect the biggest part of your gameplay and playstyle. For example, I used to have the spotting key as tab and used to have no issues with that, but after a couple of years I found that it just didn't work for me anymore. It was affecting my ability to strafe whilst aiming down sights and spotting enemies from my allies. Another keybind I had to change recently is one because of my mouse. Now that I use a new mouse, my select fire keybind was in a different place and I kept accidentally pressing it and setting my gun to single fire. I would then end up getting killed thinking I was still in full auto mode. So go back and check your keybinds and set them up to how you like to play, whether you like to use WASD for movement or even TFGH or play with claw style. Whatever feels most comfortable and best for you will be your best keybind setup. Next on the list in number 2 slot is the spotting mechanic and the minimap. The spotting mechanic is pretty much a staple in the Battlefield franchise and has been adjusted and tweaked with each new game release. So the first thing I want to mention is that the minimap has tons of good information, but the default size is generally too small. I would recommend increasing the size of this to 150% or more. The minimap can tell you where enemy soldiers are and the direction they are facing when spotted or firing an unsuppressed weapon. This includes things like vehicles, enemy or friendly equipment. I always check my map when I hear a beeping of a spawn beacon near me, and if a commander is present on the server and on your team, then you can get even more appearing on the minimap. You may think that the minimap will just be a mess of icons, and it can be if you have it too small, which is another reason you will want to increase its size. Now for the spotting, and with this you want to be trying to spot as much as possible, as often as possible, but without spamming it. You can sometimes get lucky and spot some random soldier lying prone in a bush waiting to ambush people, or even spot that sniper 500 plus meters away from you that no one knew was hiding there back at the back of the map. This mechanic can make or break servers and matches, as a lot of people, especially vehicle players, generally rely on their minimap to find and engage targets or even run around them to make it past them to the control point. Moving on to asking you to drop a like on the video and help other people find it, and perhaps dropping a sub to the channel and help me reach my goal of 500 subscribers. So tip 3 is all about movement and shooting. So when you are moving and shooting, you are a lot less accurate than if you were just standing still. This is made a lot worse with weapons like sniper rifles, and you will need to wait till your scope stops swaying after you move before you take your shot. So with that in mind, when you are moving about, you want to make sure you're as hard as a target as possible, because you will need to be pretty still to make accurate shots. This can easily be done from jumping from time to time while moving around to make yourself a harder target for your enemies to shoot at you. However, take this warning and do not spam jump everywhere, as you will have your speed and momentum reduced down to a snail's pace. I would say after 2 to 3 jumps, then you need to run for a second or two, maybe even doing some zigzags in there before making your next 2 to 3 jumps, also known as bunny hopping. Shooting in between these jumps can also be useful, as it could put suppression on your enemies, making it even harder for them to hit you. Moving on, the second to last tip I have for new and returning players is for the automatic guns and hip firing weapons. Now, when shooting at close to medium range, you can pretty much just hold the trigger down with the automatic weapon while moving, and the majority of the time it's fine. However, this does change when you get further out to the longer range encounters. When you are trying to engage a target at long range, then you want to make sure you are standing still whilst taking your shots and moving in between them to try and help stay alive. However, you also do not want to just be holding down the trigger and spraying your magazine at your enemy. No, what you want to do is 3 to 5 round bursts. This will help keep your bullets more on target, as the longer you holding down fire, the game makes your shots more inaccurate. Now, for hip firing your weapons, not many people know that when hip firing guns, their accuracy is not reduced a lot like in other types titles like Call of Duty. You actually have a lot more accuracy and can easily take people out just hip firing your guns at close ranges. When using your secondaries, this is slightly increased, and most of the time I never ADS when using a secondary, as you can quite easily hit your target even when they are moving pretty fast, unless I'm rocking the 44 Magnum with scope. Moving on, and the final tip for the video is all about positioning and suppression. Now, Battlefield 4 was the last game to have suppression fully as a mechanic. It was in Battlefield 1, but not like a visual effect as well. Battlefield 4 had the visual effect, and what this did was make the player under suppression have worse accuracy. Your bullets will not go to where you were aiming and cause you to miss a lot, but it will also give you some blur in your screen and give you screen sway in Battlefield 4. It was horrible. Now, this can be a really annoying mechanic to fight against, as it can just make you feel like there's no point in firing your gun as soon as you become suppressed. But this can also work the other way round, and you could end up surviving a sniper by just shooting a few bullets near to them and putting them under suppression. Remember, if you hit them, don't believe it puts them under suppression. It must be a miss but close to them. Now, with that in mind, it's time to talk about positioning. Since the movement in Battlefield 4 is not as refined as in the later games, positioning is more important to be successful with your engagements. Using the earlier tips as well can make sure you are in a good position to take your targets out. When you come under fire or get suppressed by an enemy, then I would recommend trying to reposition and give yourself a better advantage, as well as time for your suppression to fade away. This can be more successful than trying to just re-challenge an enemy or sit and wait for them to push you. So I thank you all for your viewership, and I would like to ask you one last time to drop a like on the video to help me out with the YouTube algorithm, and if you want to see any more of my content, then just hit that subscribe button down below and hit the bell if you want to get notifications on any new videos I upload. With all that being said, it's time to end the video, so I hope you all keep safe, keep well, and I'll catch you later.